minute, and like stick your right finger inside your ear. Well, I've got this the wrong way. Point that finger at your eye. The line where those two intersect would be where your right amygdala is. So it's pretty much right in the center of your brain. And because we're all into self-help there, we've probably all heard of the term amygdala before. And this is kind of on topic, but I'm going to go away from it a bit. I'm just going to say, we actually have two amygdalas. It's common to talk about as though we only have one. We have two. And another cool thing you can do is if you stick your thumbs out like this, right in front of your eyes. That doesn't actually do anything, but it makes me feel really good about myself. So, I'm talking about the cortex because a lot of self-help books claim you can you generate positive thoughts. And any time a negative thought comes in your head, you can start creating an internal monologue that will allow you to debate it. And a lot of the self-help books say, this is a really powerful technique. But going back to the first story I told you about, and telling you that we actually store memories in the amygdala, the memories that are stored in the amygdala, we don't actually have conscious awareness of. When it stores a memory, it's actually stored as an emotional memory. And because of this, the way the amygdala works is through association. So if you ever had a bad experience with something, the way the brain is going to work is you may never ever be consciously aware of why you suddenly feel uneasy. You could walk into a room and suddenly feel really, really nervous. And that is just the way the brain works. It's like earlier in your life, if you once had a bad experience and there was a particular smell happening at the same time, it could just be someone's perfume or whatever it is, your amygdala is suddenly going to fire off. And if you don't know how the brain works, this can be really confusing. It's why people get panic attacks, actually. They suddenly just start hyperventilating, their heart starts pounding really fast, they start breathing really quickly. And most people would say, oh, it's because the person isn't thinking straight. And they're having a lot of toxic thoughts flowing through their head, and that's affecting their behavior. But it can also work the other way. The amygdala can also cause you to start feeling really uneasy. And it's not because of the thoughts you're thinking. So, our amygdala is actually constantly running, and it's constantly searching for threats. And when it does fire off, we're going to start getting a really pounding heart, and we're going to start sweating a lot. I'm trying to keep this on topic because there is a point to all this. But an interesting fact is that there's more connections going from the amygdala to the cortex than from the cortex to the amygdala. So when our amygdala does fire off, it means we can often have a very hard time controlling what's going to start happening inside our own body. It's not just as simple as then starting to think positive or to refocus our mind onto a different area. Once it starts being activated, it can be very, very tough to suddenly regain control. And actually, it's quite frustrating for both parties involved when there's good intentions, but when someone starts panicking, a lot of the times the person starts speaking to that person with reason, and they think they're doing the best thing. But actually, once the amygdala starts going off, it doesn't operate on logic. And because of that, the reason is not going to help that person at all. And the title of this speech, it's not really a speech, but it was going to be called The Language of the Amygdala. Because to really, really optimize how your brain functions, you have to go beyond language sometimes. And to influence the amygdala, there's several things you can do. But one of the most powerful things you can do, and I think most of us are aware of it in this room, is you can just start focusing on your breathing. Because if you start taking deep breaths, it's going to slow your heart rate down. And that eventually is going to lower the activity down in your amygdala. The other really cool thing I learned actually in this book is exercise is another great way to dampen the effect of the amygdala. And if you have to do something important later on in the day, which you know is going to cause you a lot of anxiety, a well-timed exercise session will have great benefits for about up to 6 hours afterwards. When they monitor people, like scientists, they find that people who exercise beforehand, there's a lot less anxious activity going on in that individual. The other really important thing is sleep. I'm really sleep deprived at the moment, actually. So it means my amygdala is much more likely to start firing off. So a good night's sleep, is going to reduce that chance of that happening. And the final point I really want to leave on is, even though the amygdala can fire up on its own accord, you can actually create new connections in your brain. And the really positive message of this book is actually, if you want to start creating new connections, you actually have to expose yourself to situations that's going to fire the amygdala up. Because of the way the amygdala works, it works for association. So if you've ever had a bad experience with public speaking, every time you get into a similar environment like this, your heart's going to start pounding, you're going to start sweating profusely. But the only way to generate new connections is to get into that similar situation and just stay with it until eventually you notice your anxiety decreasing. And that in itself will create new connections in your brain, which will then compete with the old connections, and eventually you just become more relaxed. And there's a phrase the authors use, and it's called activate to generate. You have to activate your amygdala to generate new connections.
Could we have a recess for a couple of minutes?
Yes.
Just go wait until so we're ready. Yeah. Alistair?
Eat your cookie! Yes, good boy. Good girl.
Go on. Yeah.
Well, 14 cookies because there's already like 12 people here.
Yeah.
And it's 7.5.
Very nice cookies.
Yeah, do you want another one? Nikki's now eating.
No, I love the props. You
You're bad.
can't normally eat the props, can you?
They are nicer at first, but they are just fake.
No.
What's that?
We use this time to fill the office. Oh, yeah, sure.
I don't have any of them here.
Number 6.
Okay, for you.
That's why I'm
Sounds like fear thing.
I took it off for the kitchen when I sat down. But you do that, yeah, people just eat complaining, sleeping. Oh, we can do it now. Oh, here.
Thank you for volunteering.
How's that?
Yeah.
Lovely.
I don't know what's going to be.
Organises the lottery and thoughts.
Alright,
Okay. I thought it was so brave. Don't see Mara volunteering.
What are you thinking about in that car?
Do you know what? Part of me, I was like, I'm going to go there and do an orgasm. And then I was like, there is a camera, I'm not doing that. And then, you know what, if he has saying, I'm going. And then I don't care, I'm coming to orgasm. Sorry.
8 minutes.
When you were in the lottery, everyone takes a second if you get away from the lottery. I was like,
about this driving down.
You know what I kept thinking? That's not true, I wouldn't be excited. I would be excited. But you want to say from the other places now, serious and other people trying to get your money into your account.
There was a lot of laughing.
You really have this in your head, really?
You think so?
I really thought they were going to have a
I thought that was what I wanted. I didn't know. There's no camera. I can't do it without a camera.
I can provide.
I'm fine.
And I provide a baby, don't you?
Next script.
Don't really have to.
It's a beautiful one. That's a gorgeous one.
Right, should we take our seats?
I didn't pee. Bueno,
I've still got the camera. Oh, that's nice.
you still have the camera going. We're just speaking.
Go.
Oh, it's a welcome.
Do you want to jump up or something? No? What am I doing?
I've got a coat.
Can I wear that?
Yeah, go on. Because I'm all right, you probably come down with something. I was like this yesterday. I left it and came back. Yeah. I said,
It's my coat.
my throat was,
Oh, still warm. Does that put you on?
Cheers, Jeremy.
Is that right? Yeah.
oh, it wouldn't fit, would it? It's got big.
Don't sort of think up. Just start with sort of. Just one.
I'm trying to remember it.
Sorry, Alice.
Just
I
tell us what you want.
thought it was
Okay.
what's bigger than the other.
You'll be fine.
Oh, crazy, isn't
That would
it?
be such a funny picture.
Just, there's enough at the time. Just, and then,
Why has it just
and then
been
we
there?
just sort of easy.
Look at you.
Little fez.
You get aim on the hopes and stuff and short.
No, no, just said about people. Good.
Alright. How do you get if I do one of those?
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Just do one.
No, I'm still
I
Yeah.
like your advice about how it's
Muscle
like
fit.
sound big for
That's what you do.
So, just like that.
Okay, should we all take our seats?
Who's speaking right now? Me again.
Alistair's going to give us another speech.
Hey.
Good. 2 for the price of 1. Wow. Hey.
Okay, well, I'm actually going to give like quite a similar speech to that one, but I'm going to attempt to not use notes. And it's probably not going to last that long. So, I'll start off again by telling you the story of the lady in the hospital. She has a syndrome called Korsakoff syndrome, which actually you get from chronic alcoholism. And because of this syndrome, she's not able to generate memories. And she's not even able to remember her doctor. And one day her doctor does an experiment. He goes up, shakes her hand, but he has a pin in it. Instinctively she pulls back because she's in pain. The next day the doctor goes up to shake her hand, and instinctively she pulls away. She claims she's never met the doctor, and she can't even offer an explanation for why she's pulling away from shaking his hand. The point of that story is our brain stores memories in more than one location. It stores it in the cortex, and also stores it in the amygdala. Memories that are stored in the amygdala are emotional memories, and often we have no conscious awareness of those memories. We could just be doing a task and suddenly we get a really emotional reaction to something. Our cortex, on the other hand, are conscious memories, and we're able to describe them. So, for instance, someone as a young kid may have been bitten by a dog, and they could go through the whole life having a phobia of dogs. And someone with good intentions may say to that person, look, pet my dog, he's not going to bite. But that is no good to someone who has a phobia based on their amygdala, because reason and logic doesn't work. The only way for that person to improve their phobia is to actually gradually do, it's called exposure therapy, to gradually expose themselves more and more to what they fear, whilst being aware that what they say to themselves is going to have very little effect. There are 3 real big things you can do to get better control over your amygdala. First one is have a good night's sleep, because with a lack of sleep your amygdala is a lot more sensitive. Breathing exercises, something I do a lot, just really good deep breath from your diaphragm. It's really great. Really quietens down your amygdala. And finally, there was a third point: sleep, breathing, and if anyone was listening to my yes, you were listening to my previous speech. Thank you. Exercise. If you have something important to do, structure your day so you exercise beforehand. You're going to feel a lot less nervous than if you don't exercise. There's three really big things you can do to quieten down your amygdala, and there's a phrase some neuroscientists use: activate to generate. So if you want to quieten down your amygdala, you actually have to start activating it in certain situations. And it's only by activating it can you create new connections in your brain, which in the future will lead to a lot more relaxed states.
Really, well done. Yeah. I think when you watch the video,
Yeah.
watch the two, and you'll see a marked difference.
It might just be the jacket.
I'll rent it out to you. Actually, you've got a good point there, because if you feel cold, you're going to be sort of shivering anyhow. And was it Amy Cuddy did the experiments where you actually did sort of your body language, you adopt a big body, you feel more confident. But if you're shivering, then you might feel a bit more nervous.
Right.
Superman pose, isn't it?
Yeah.
Superman
Pants on the outside.
So, apologies, Stella, I forgot you were evaluating.
I'm so easy to forget then. Thank you. Alright. Alistair, I'm going to evaluate both of your speeches. So I think it was very, very educational. I think we all agree on that. We are very glad that you chose that topic. You connect with the audience when you did these little moments when you allowed yourself to be yourself. And you were like, put your hands up. And it's only because of the fun of me laughing at you for putting the hands up. So I thought that was very good. And I've been seeing that you had a lot of body language improvement, a lot of movement improvement. Before you started pretty much like the dinosaur speech kind of thing, and you've been allowing yourself to go bigger. But sometimes you retract yourself, and that's the which where I'm going. In the first speech that you did, okay, I just want you to believe, I want you to understand that you know this. And even if you didn't, we haven't read the book. So if you just want to make a check, and be sure to ask who read the book. No one read it, okay, I can make everything up. It's not a problem. So I thought that you were undermining yourself when you say, I'm not prepared, I haven't slept, and you wouldn't leave your note, so you were doing the hands, and I saw for a moment you didn't know what to do with the note, because you were so attached to it that instead of just leaving it on the table, you were like trying to put it here and put it there, but never leave it. And I didn't think, I thought that when you saw your notes, you didn't really see it. You were just there to give you confidence, but I think it did the contrary job. Actually, oh yes, there was a moment when you said, well, this is not a speech. My speech, that is not a speech. And I was thinking, well, why did you say that? I thought it was I think it's being an awesome speech. So don't undermine yourself, because we are having this amazing experience and all this great image of what you are, and you are just destroying it yourself, you're making it a disfavor. Oh yes, and then I grow again, you know your content. And I was so right about that, then you do that again, and you did it all perfectly without the notes. So obviously you know what you were talking about, and maybe it's just chatting up your amygdala.
Right.
Just understand that we're okay. No one's going to hit you, or it's going to eat you, or nothing's going to happen to you. And on that sense, I love how you asked the audience to help you when you weren't sure about, when you couldn't remember the exercise bit. So I think that was very good, and it helped you to connect as well with the audience. So that's my not very short evaluation. Someone else?
Just a quick wish I just wrote. Don't apologize. I agree with you. Just start and do it, and if they don't like it. But the first star it was because I thought the thumbs up was really clever. Like it was really funny. And the other star that I wrote, that it was an incredible way to tackle a very complex topic without using difficult words. Like anyone could fall into that trap of saying every single piece of your brain and using difficult words. But first one was great, and I wrote that one in the second, and the second speech was even better, like no technical words or something, it was just so easy to understand. And I wrote that your pace was just magnific, like so natural and relaxed that it feels like you own the topic completely. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you. One very quick, because time is pressing on.
I was going to say that with the first speech, even as you stood there, you did own the stage. And you did know your content, and in fact you started to relax when you were going with the 2 fingers, as you mentioned, and then we were just enjoying that, and so were you. And then it was almost like, oh yeah, I've got to check this. But what happened with the second one was you were flowing really well with it, and you'd shown how you knew it anyway, that was coming across, and that made a sense of the swifter for us to sort of catch on it. The little bit that you lost was the bit of you see your bit there, but two combined, I mean, you've got it. You have absolutely got it. Tear the thing up, make it your own. It's not the book, it's you. You can make it yours. That's the only thing. That was lovely. Yeah.
Say quickly, Alistair, with all respect, and I mean this supportively, the first speech for me was horrendous. It was the worst speech I've seen you do because you were glued to your notes. The only 2 bits I liked, you put it under your arm and you did this. Which way was it? This way? Which I found informative and you looked natural, and that I thought was hilarious. The rest of it, honestly, I'd love you to make a promise to the group that you will never, ever, ever take notes in the front of the room again, because you're way, way, way better than that. That's for a first or second speech. Your skill level, your confidence level, your knowledge around the subject as you demonstrate the subject, you don't need notes, honestly. So I'd love you to kind of say, do you know what, I'll never ever do it again, because you're way, way, way better than that. Second speech, absolutely brilliant. Natural, effortless, flowed. It was just brilliant. I was captivated by the second one, and I didn't like the first one at all, as you probably guessed, but the second one, fantastic.
Cheers.
Cool. Well done.
Right, Kate.
Good evening. Today I'd like to take you for a journey. I'm going to invite you to visit a very interesting place. This place is called Krakow. Has anyone heard about it? Been there? So Krakow is in south of Poland, where I come from, and I actually live about 100 kilometers from the town, and I love this place. I didn't grow up there now because I didn't live in the town, but it's a magnificent place. And when I was preparing this speech, I thought I will write a mini guide for you guys. So if you want to go, you just remember some things. Maybe you ask me. But then I thought, no, there's no point writing a mini guide. There's lots of stuff on the internet which you can Google. So I thought I would just give you 10 reasons why you should go to Krakow. So first reason. Did you know that the biggest square market in Europe is actually in Krakow? It's lovely. It's square, 200 meters wide and long. And it's surrounded by tall buildings, townhouses, which every single of them is different and has a different history. Another reason. If any of you watch film Schindler's List, it's a true story very sad one, but actually it happens in Krakow. And still the fabric exists and the building is there, and there's a lovely museum, very interactive, you can go there, so I really recommend you watch the film first and then you can watch the museum. Another more happy reason, the biggest and no, not the biggest, I'm lying, the oldest shopping mall, and the first one is in Krakow as well. Right in the square market, there's a long building with the little boutiques inside. Each boutique is in the same size, and they sell amber, other jewelry, and obviously local produce and souvenirs. Another reason, on the suburbs of Krakow, there's a salt mine, and it's the oldest working salt mine in the world, one of the oldest ones. And actually, 125 meters underneath the ground, you've got carved chambers and different statues and ornament, everything carved in the salt rock. So if you fancy to go, I really recommend. I haven't been there myself, I have to say. I'm just waiting when my children will grow up and we can go together. So I really recommend. Also, they've got a restaurant down there. So I think that might be a great experience actually to eat your dinner 125 meters underneath the ground. And let's just hope that they don't put too much salt in their food. So, another reason to go to Krakow, which I personally love, because I've seen most of the museums and the lovely buildings, but I love the second level of life, if I may say that. The square market, obviously, most of the businesses are restaurants and pubs and clubs, cafes, so basically to entertain people. But each townhouse have a cellar underneath the grounds. In the old days, people were storing coal there as a source of heating. But then, as the civilization came, they adapted the cellars into pubs and clubs again. So, so there's actually, I may say, there's another level underneath the Krakow where the whole life is happening. It's just lovely. You just have to walk on the square market and just keep your eyes skinned, because quite often the names of the pubs, they are very, very little, like just a little plague. So you have to keep your eyes skinned, or just, you know, buy a guide and visit the best places. Another reason, as was probably you know, or maybe not, Poland's most famous drink is vodka. So you can go for a vodka crawl, and you will be surprised how many different tastes and how many different colors vodka comes. And it's not very expensive. Most probably you would like to know how much it is. So a pint of beer in a restaurant is £1.20. A shot of vodka, which is 50 ml, we don't do singles, it's about £1.50 again. So I really recommend that. You know, especially, you know, maybe, you know, we are not big drinker, but, you know, in a good company, you know, everyone is up for it, I bet. Also, good thing about Krakow is you can go to Auschwitz. It's not the very good story about Auschwitz, as anyone knows. But some people actually go especially to Krakow just, you know, to do the trip to Auschwitz. So if you're going to do it, if you're going to visit Krakow, leave it for the last day. I've never been in Auschwitz and I'm not going to. I read enough about it. So another reason to go to Krakow, if you are a fan of music or art galleries, there's lots of music festival happening in Krakow. Every month, about 2 or 3 different festivals. And the music really varies. It's like sacral music, which happens in churches. Also, you know, heavy metal, you know, festival music, whatever you can imagine. Also, the biggest reason actually to go there, and that's why I actually come out with the speech, that you can fly to Krakow from Bournemouth. From this month, they open a new route, the Ryanair, and actually in 2.5 hours you can be in lovely Krakow. So I truly recommend, and if you decide, just give me a shout, I give you more tips.